Welcome, everyone. Good evening. We thank you for attending the Euclid Public Library's Virtual Fireside Chat. We have not done one of these in quite some time, so we really appreciate that everyone has taken the time out of your busy schedule this evening to join us as we get some good updates from Mayor Holzheimer Gale tonight. So our usual format, and we're going to try to keep to it, is that Mayor Gale will give some updates about what's going on in the city. And then we just open it up for some Q&A. Okay, so if you have some questions, go ahead and start populating them in the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll just take them one at a time. So again, this program is being recorded, and we will make sure that we share this on our YouTube page afterwards. So thank you again for attending, and welcome, Mayor Gale. How's things going at the city? What's going on?
Thank you. First, thank you, Director Casey Armstrong and Ashley Gowans from the library for inviting me tonight. It's always a great thing to be at the library. I wish I was there in person, but I will say I'm happy to hear the library is open again for browsing. And I know you never really shut down services. You tried to find a way, like we all have, to get through this pandemic and still really committed to providing the service to our residents. So, Casey, to you and your whole team, thank you for your diligence through the pandemic and really for all you do. Last year, I don't know if everybody knows this, the library celebrated their 85th anniversary, and they had a big celebration. They were working on planning, and that didn't get to happen. But I think maybe we should do 86, or we'll give you a year.
Thinking, I keep talking about it, Mayor. I agree.
We got to celebrate these things, right?
Yes.
So, truly, thank you. I am in my office. You'll see I have a little bit of a mess going on behind me. We're, always busy there's a million things going on, but we'll take just a few minutes to share, a couple of updates, and then I know you got some questions, and then certainly open to those who have joined us, their questions. So thank you for those of you who joined us. COVID obviously is the big update. I hope everybody is working on getting the vaccine if you can. I want to thank, all of our residents, all of our employees, our businesses, everybody. The city of Euclid really came together and rallied. We got a lot of data, we got a lot of information, and the zip codes of Euclid really through the whole thing were a little bit lower than other zip codes. So whether that was just everyone following directions, whether that was people staying healthy, I appreciate that. And it's, while we're, looks like we're kind of turning the corner and heading in the right direction, we still need to make sure we're wearing our masks and maintaining distance and doing what we can until more people get vaccinated, until we really develop more of a, herd immunity or community immunity. So I want to thank, City Hall is still closed to the public, but we are providing service to the residents in a lot of different ways. I want to thank our employees. They've been so dedicated and resilient and really creative in how they've been able to respond and find ways to keep providing the service. I do expect that we will be open by appointment in the next week or so, especially for the tax department, so people can come in and get some assistance for their income tax filing if they need that. They are, of course, here by appointment, and of course, you can also now use the e-filing service available to us through RITA. The
hours will be the same, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, yeah. City Hall's
just make an appointment.
Make an appointment, right. Thank you. So, we were fortunate really through COVID. We got some support from the government, from the federal government through CARES funds. Because of that, we've been able to, we ended the year in a good position financially. We actually added to our cash balance. The CARES money that we received, we used about 75% of it we used to support first responders, so police and fire services, really making sure we maintain that strong service. We did some IT upgrades so that we can do virtual programming, virtual programs and services for the residents. We did some building improvements so that we can prepare to open safely. And then, of course, some personal protective equipment and health items. We also got some block grant funds, which enabled us to do a small business grant, some rent assistance, and some food assistance programs. So use those funds to help the community in a number of different ways. We're thrilled. The American Rescue Act that the federal government has planned, Euclid is a direct recipient, so we will be getting additional funding that we have from now through 2024 to spend.
When you say direct recipient, what do you mean by direct?
They will send it directly to us. It does not have to go to the state, then to the county, then be allocated. So because
that's wonderful news.
Yeah, so because we're what's called an entitlement community, and that's because we get community development block grant funds directly, that puts us in this category of being a direct recipient. So, we're still waiting on some guidance for how those funds can be spent, but it really will give us an opportunity to, I think, position the city to really, improve itself long term. And so we want to make sure, of course, we're spending this money to have its greatest impact on the health and wellness for sure, safety, long-term impact. So these are some things, and the general guideline so far is, is of course responding to the pandemic, but there is some piece of revenue replacement, supporting essential workers, and then some infrastructure support. So we've got to figure out the best way to use it that will have the greatest impact, not only for today, but long-term. So some exciting things.
Yeah, that is exciting. Isn't it funny when you get unexpected money, you're like, oh my God, what do we do with this?
And I will say, we've not been in this position before. So, this is my second term as mayor. I was on, city council prior. We have always been, and we still are very conservative with our spending. This year, the second topic I was going to touch on real briefly is our budget. And we have the good fortune of actually being in a position to do some things this year. We normally are, really debating. And I mean, of course, we're still debating. But we're able to do some things, and so we've always pieced together, and you try to keep within the budget. This year, so the general budget, we're adding police officers, we're adding firefighters, but adding some of our core services, they've been cut back over the years, really little bits at a time by attrition, and because our budgets have been tight, so we're able to do some things that will have an impact. But the biggest thing is the capital. And so we actually have some money to be able to do some things this year. We're going to do $3 million in street resurfacing. Those have been around for a while. It's been several years since we've done street resurfacing, and we all know there's lots of potholes, and we have so many streets that need it. And then longer, over the next 2 years, Euclid Avenue will be redone, 185th will be redone. Those are both being done through ODOT. In our capital fund, and again, Casey, to your point of having some, money that you kind of weren't expecting, we got a workers' comp refund, and we dedicated that to capital. So we're going to be able to do some things like new playgrounds and upgrade some of our community assets, like the cart paths at the golf course. Different funding, but there's new windows going in at Shore. There's new windows going in at the senior center. We're going to be, new dash cams for the police cars, upgrading our vehicles, doing some building improvements, things that we haven't been able to do. So we really want to make sure that some of those, that those things are things that will impact our residents and that they'll be able to see. So we look forward to bringing
wonderful news.
Yeah. In the planning and development department, we have a new director. Allison Lucasy-Love is now our planning and development director. We have 3 new positions that we're posting in planning and development. One is a new position, which is an economic development manager. We really want to have somebody who's focused on, working with businesses, attracting, retaining, and really helping to improve the overall business climate. The planning manager, which was Allison's former position, and then we have a community projects coordinator. So Allison, for those who don't know, has been with the city for 6 years, or 5 years, really has spearheaded the waterfront improvements project, which continues to be underway. If you have not been down to Sims Park, I would invite you on the next nice sunny day. Please walk down and take a look at the phase 1 was completed last year. Phase 2 is under construction. And it really is a project that, we've been working on for a long time. But I think really helps us use the lake to our greatest advantage. And so we're opening up access to the lakefront, providing more recreational opportunity for our residents. It did provide erosion control and open up some natural habitat. So it really exciting project. It's getting lots of press from the county, from the state. So the Cuyahoga County, as well as the area, the NOACA, which is the Northeast Ohio Area Coordinating Agency, are using our project to build off of, to see how can we take what Euclid has accomplished here and look at expanding it to Cuyahoga County and look at expanding it to the region. So looking at Lake County, Ashtabula County, Lorain County, to the west. So really exciting. And that, wouldn't have happened without the support of lots of state grants and federal funding and local support through the TIF that's there.
Okay.
One of the questions that I know we had ahead of time is around police and safety and that. So I'm going to come back to that, but just two other quick things before we get to that, because that'll probably be a longer topic. Okay. One of the pet peeves, and I bet you everyone on the call will agree with this, is the litter. For whatever reason this year, the litter is horrible. And that's one of my pet peeves. I hate it. When I first was elected and started as mayor, we created Keep Euclid Beautiful because I said, we got to do something about this litter. The city can't do it all. So Keep Euclid Beautiful is a group of, Euclid residents. It's an affiliate of Keep Ohio Beautiful, Keep America Beautiful, with the whole intention of getting the community involved. To keep the community looking good. So picking up litter, recycling, and then doing beautification projects. So we've been working, we're putting together sort of an educational campaign. I think, those of us who are my age or similar remember the give a hoot, don't pollute, or those kind of, catchphrases when we were kids that we learned about no littering. We're looking at doing some campaigns like that. We're doing some regular cleanups. The Big Clean, which is an annual kind of community-wide cleanup, will take place this year on April 24th. We're using our nuisance crews to get out and clean up, but my request to everybody, business, resident, community group, whoever you are, if you can help us, if we all do our part, it'll make a big difference. And so whether it's picking up in front of your house, picking up in front of your storefront, if you take a walk, take a bag and pick it up. I know you shouldn't have to. I used to walk the kids to school and grumble every time I saw something, and I just started bringing a bag and picking it up. And I shouldn't have to, but it made me feel better. At least I was doing my part. So we know it drives us crazy as well. We're trying to think of some other solutions to it, but I would ask everyone to, help do your part and join us for the Big Clean if you can. We will follow social distancing.
You said April 24th?
It's a Saturday. Yep, Saturday, April 24th. We'll get information on our city website, and Keep Euclid Beautiful. You can also get information through them. This is, I think, our 4th year we've done this, and it's kind of a competition with Cleveland. So we, 185th Street area, and I think we've won every time, but that's just one of the things we're working on. So and I want people to know, because we get a fair amount of calls, and I don't know whether with COVID, more people are eating out and eating, things are being packaged differently. I don't know if that's part of it. If it's, when the wind blows after the snow melts, there is always an increase, but this year seems particularly bad. So we're asking for everyone to sort of help do their part with that. And then the other thing I wanted to just kind of talk briefly about is our housing. We've had some good news with the housing stock. Euclid was recognized as one of 2 communities that has seen housing values go up for 9 years in a row. Euclid and Strongsville were identified in that group. And so, and we continue to see, last year we saw a record number of housing permits, so residential housing permits, people doing home improvements. That was one probably good outcome of COVID, is people were home and sort of taking on some of these home improvement projects. So we've seen some of that happen. And we're seeing a record number of new homes coming up. So For years, we've
You
been
mean
sort of
brand new construction?
brand new homes, right? Yeah. So last year we had 17 land bank lots, which are lots within the regular neighborhoods that a house had been torn down. So it's a vacant lot, whether we tore it down or whether the county land bank tore it down, and then we hold the property. So we're selling those lots, and 17 of them will be new homes. Two of them sold almost immediately, and then the two on East 238, one north of Lakeshore, one south of Lakeshore, they're under construction and have contracts on them already. So they're selling for 230,000, 240,000 new homes in the city, and that helps everyone because it helps bring the median values up, and it attracts new families to the community.
Absolutely.
And then the same home builder who's doing those two on 238, his name is Frank Amato, bought the Wilmore property, the old school site, and will be building 11 new homes on that property. So, we're seeing some good interest and good investment in the housing stock, I think, which is a good thing. So the last thing I'll just touch on before we open it up to questions is, I know there was a question around.
Do you want Ashley to pull up your slide?
Not quite yet. Yeah. So
Okay.
let me touch on a couple of things first. So, one of the issues we hear about, and I know is a major concern for most residents, is, criminal activity and safety, and am I safe, and what are we doing? I will say that is one of the probably really negative impacts of COVID is we have seen an increase in criminal activity across the city. When we look at the numbers from the end of the year 2020, there were some categories we went up in, there were many categories we went down in. So, and that it is cyclical, you have some ups and downs. But I think I think what's concerning is, because of COVID, what we really have seen is the interrelation and the interconnection of all the systems, so to say. So our police our police job is to respond to calls, to enforce the law. They're not the ones who, we don't have our own jail, so we're not responsible for the jailing. We're not responsible for sentencing or convicting somebody. We simply are responsible. The police are simply responsible. They respond to calls. What's broken down is we don't have, because of COVID, the county jail, which we use, won't hold anything except the very serious felonies. Juvenile court won't take hardly anybody. The courts are not in session for the most part, so they're really putting everything on hold. And so there's no consequences. And so I think all of these systems are really sort of jumbled together in and I think that's a big piece of why we're seeing an increase in crime. I think there's also, because of COVID, there's additional stressors for people. We're seeing a rise in kind of mental health issues, domestic disputes, things because people are home and, I don't know, getting on each other's nerves, or it's just, there's different stressors that are causing this type of activity. And so I say all of that to say we're not alone. We're, the communities across the country are experiencing this. Cities across the country are experiencing a rise in gun incidents. And so I want to talk about and share some of the things we're doing, because I think a lot of people don't know what we're doing. Our police department is doing an excellent job with the tools that they have and responding how they can. So, what do we do to increase the safety in the community? I think number one is, filling our ranks. So increasing the number of officers. And we've done that in the budget, and we've done that recently. So we recently brought on 4 new officers. We actually brought one back. So one who had left went to another department and decided he didn't like it there, wanted to come back. So we brought him back. And then there's 2 more who are just coming out of the academy. It should be going, through the field training field training program soon. So they'll be on the road. And then we have, more hiring in process. So hiring has become very difficult. Again, things like COVID, how that impacts it. There's no police academy. So, you're trying to get officers, but there's no police academy for a year. So there's no people coming out of that pipeline. But we are working on hiring. We expect to have probably another 4, hopefully by June or July. So, working on adding to the ranks. And we're working with our civil service to try to address some of the issues of making it difficult to get officers. So we just announced another lateral program. So we're willing to take officers, and we're going to do it on a rolling process so that we're not doing it once a year. Hey, we're opening, application process. We're going to be taking rolling applications and accepting people throughout the year. Some of the other things, so, are some of the special details and some of the kind of the special responses that our officers do. And so they always, use analytics. So we have Kate McLaughlin in our community policing department who tracks all the data and tracks where it's happening, when it's happening, what type of activity. And so they utilize special details for areas where they, there's problem areas. One of the things they started recently is what they're calling high visibility special details. And these are more of a letting people know they're there and they're out there patrolling. And so if you see a police car driving down your street with its lights on going slowly, that's just so they're there and they're watching and they're keeping an eye on what's happening. If they're going fast, then they're responding to a call. But if they're just driving down your street and have the lights on and going slow, if you have a question, come out and ask them. That's really just so people, and it started with some of the apartments, whereas the apartments were saying, hey, can you give us some attention? There might be things happening in the cars, and the police would come in and out and they'd say, we never see you. How come you're not there? So they started using the lights so that people know they're there. And that is a source of prevention. So if people know the police are around, and if it makes it more visible so people know the police are there. They've started doing some knock and talk. So when there has been an incident on a street, they will go down the street the next day or the next couple of days and knock and talk to residents, get information from them, tell them what happened, make sure they kind of are in just understanding what happened and what the police are doing. They continue to seize a record number of firearms. And so whether that's through traffic stops or whether that's, through some of these other incidents that happen, they are continuing to seize guns. And they're looking, of course, we use kind of some of the special task forces. So, we're part of several county groups. And so whether it's drug related or, other crime related, they do some of those multi-jurisdictional interdictions. And then the other thing they're doing is really looking for some of the precursor events. And so, the best example of like, what can we do to, or what kind of issues lead up to problems? And there's been some recent carjackings. And so what we want to do is make sure you get cars off the street. So people are, when they looked at the data, it was while people were sitting in a car or coming up behind a car. So, we have no overnight parking. And while that might seem like a minor thing to people, if there's lots of cars on the street, it's easy for people to hide behind stuff, or it's easy, for people who shouldn't be there to be there. And so they really started in March doing a real attention on, let's get the overnight parking, let's ticket the overnight cars, get them off the street because they shouldn't be there, and give people a place to hide behind or cause some extra trouble. So, some of those kind of precursor events, they're really giving attention to as well. And we need residents' help. So, there's things that you as a resident can do. We need you to call in when you see something that is not, and this might be a time, Ashley, if you want to put the slides up. I do have a couple of slides that Kate McLaughlin had shared that we can just kind of run through quickly. And it's more around prevention. And so things that you can do and everybody can do to, we do need you to call the police if there's homes on your street that have nuisance or criminal activities. The police know if they're called, they will respond. But we also need to know when these nuisances are happening and track them, because we have an ordinance that we do charge the homeowner, whether it's a rental or the owner. If there's more than 2 nuisance calls, we let them know you're going to be charged, and they then are charged for the police calls. We wanted to have some ability to get rid of these ongoing nuisances, or to make them, hold them responsible. Never store a handgun if you have one in a car. Keep it in a safe if you have it. The crimes of opportunity, it's amazing how many times somebody has a gun stolen out of their car. It should not be in the car, it should be stored. Never leave a car running or unattended. Again, the number of car thefts that report they left their car running or they left the keys in the car, don't make it easy for criminals. And remove items from your vehicle and lock your doors. It's really denying that access, don't giving people an easy opportunity. Good lighting in your driveway, in your yard helps. If installing security cameras helps, so giving people see that, and it's a reason to stay away, but it also provides the police with some assistance if you do have a camera. And we do have a program available to register your security camera if you have one, so that the police know and can contact you. If you don't have to share it, but if there was a crime in your area, they often can look to see who has tape, who has a video, and that will help to solve a crime. Keeping your shrubs trimmed, keeping your trees trimmed so you don't have a place for people to hide behind. And then, personal protection devices. If you have, if you're walking with your keys and you have an alarm on it, or, something that will help you. Certainly keeping doors locked. If you want to go to the next, watching for suspicious people in your neighborhood and calling the police. The police do want you to call when you see suspicious activity. Oftentimes, if it's something that doesn't look right or something that doesn't feel right, it may be a problem. Watch for vehicles driving by or parking in the, parking when they shouldn't. And then communication is key. So talking to your neighbors, using Nextdoor or social media, euclidpd.org, Euclid Police Facebook or Twitter, just staying connected with each other, communicating with each other can help. So I think those are things. And then block watch, I think is a big piece. If you have, if you don't have a block watch in your neighborhood, we can help you set one up. Kate McLaughlin, again, at the police department, can help you do that. All of these things help build a strong neighborhood. So those are, just kind of some general tips. We are looking at technology. We are looking at, additional officers. We're always looking for what other communities are doing. And I see there's been a car parked in front of my house for over a month. And so that, I asked, so Captain Cutright, who now is in charge of patrol, has taken this on. And I asked him earlier today, I said, because I know they've really been making an effort in March. And he said he thinks they probably have given over 600 tickets, and they towed today 4 cars for unpaid tickets. So if a car is in front of your yard, in your house overnight, so the rule is you can't park overnight from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. If you're awake during that time, you can call the police yourself, 731-1234. If you're not, and I don't need you to stay up, then you can call Community Policing Department and let them know the address. And that is 289-8449, I believe. Let me double check. 289-8449.
49. Okay, I'm going to put that in the chat box.
Yeah.
And then the general number was
216-731-1234. So, Stan, if you want to share with me the address, I can make sure, to share that with them as well. And if you don't want to put that in the chat, you can certainly call me, or if you're in the, if I could, well, it's probably easier if you want to give us a call, or if you want to call police directly. Yeah, it should not be, it can be parked there during the day. I mean, unfortunately, we do get some calls from folks, that somebody, regularly gets, parks their car in the street all day long. Unfortunately, there's not something we can do that. If it is overnight, they can get ticketed. And so the police, that's not their top priority. When they have time, they do give attention. And again, now they're looking at it as kind of one of those precursor events that lets, because of the thefts and because of some of the activities that's happened, we don't want to give anyone overnight, if you shouldn't be there, it shouldn't be there. And it's one of those things we get a lot of calls about. So they've done 600 tickets in March. and are
That's
working
a
on it.
lot.
So yeah, yeah.
Did you see this question, Mayor Gell? It says, it seems since the pandemic hit, way more people are driving over the speed limit. So what can be done? What's the question? Will the police be using radar soon? And what can be done about, keeping everyone safe on the roads?
Yeah, that's been an issue too. And again, I think because it's so funny how the impacts of COVID and what people think it is. There's been a ton of use on the freeways, on the side streets. Everyone's in a hurry. We do have radar trailers. That's one of the new things, and I think we were able to use some COVID money to get that.
What is that, Mayor? What is a radar trailer?
It's really, it does not ticket people, but it's one of those trailers that as you're driving down the street, you'll see, the speed limit is 25, you're going, and then it's a digital sign. But it does collect data. So if we place it on a street, we can see how many people drove by and how many people were over the speed limit. We did have through a partnership with the Highway Patrol, they were in Euclid for about 2 weeks, a couple weeks ago, really focused on, on safe driving and ticketing and speeding. So that's an opportunity. Our police, we do have a traffic unit. And so if there's a particular area of concern or street that you're concerned about, let us know and we can, put the trailer there and ask the traffic to, put some attention there. The general overall, the best thing we can continue to do is try a ticket is the best way to get somebody to think about it, but it doesn't last long. The police will do that, but we don't have a huge traffic unit, and they've been busy. The police have been busy with lots of calls lately. But I would suggest if there's a specific street or area that you're noticing it on, I would ask the resident to let us know the street, and we'll get some attention to that.
Okay. Well, I have to say, as a person who continued to work during COVID and driving, it was so lovely not having all of that traffic, Mayor.
Yeah.
And now the traffic is back, and I say, oh, we've forgotten how to do this. Like, it's almost like we've just like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to drive a certain speed limit, and there are going to be other people on the road with me.
Right. Yeah. So how about any are there other questions? I don't know.
I do have a deer question. What are your plans to deal with the increase in the deer population?
So that's a tricky one. And I will say the city council has had several meetings about controlling the deer population. The best way to do it really is, I would encourage residents. There are some things residents can do, and there's sprays and that, if it's about your plants. The general deer population, I don't believe Euclid, when you look at the numbers, we were not overpopulated yet, but unless we do some control, the thought was we would be. So that, as the population grows up, what they say to look for and how they determine that is some cities actually do surveys, and you have to pay somebody, and they do from a plane, I think, or I don't know if they use drones or planes, figure out how many deer are per square mile. So we've been discussing, do we do a culling program? Do we allow council's latest program they were working on would be allowing residents to authorize somebody to come on their property to cull the deer. But that would require them to get a certified, license, to have somebody licensed to do that, basically hunting on their property. And it didn't seem to have, great support. I don't know that that's the answer. I mean, I think we need to do whatever we need to do. I think we need to do it in concert with the neighboring communities. So we have Euclid Creek Metro Park in our community. The deer don't know borders. So if we're going to do something, we need to make sure we're doing it kind of with Willowick, Wickliffe, Richmond Heights. And I know you wonder
too, with so many of us being inside, the deer were just like, oh, this is our time to be out and about. So you wonder.
And they
if
definitely are
again, this is
getting
another,
bolder. Yeah, they definitely are getting bolder. I mean,
yeah,
you can walk by, if they're there, they just kind of look up at you. Whereas it used to be, if they heard something, they'd scatter. But
right.
when they look at overpopulation, they're looking at the number of accidents, they're looking at impact to habitation. We haven't seen that. We don't have high numbers of accidents, but it is on our radar. It's a
Okay.
difficult issue because for as many people that want us to do something, there's that many that don't want us to, don't touch the animals. So we want to make sure we're doing it in a, well thought out, doing it based on fact and data.
Yeah, yeah, that makes
So we're
sense.
working with a gentleman from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to sort of look at our options. And
Okay.
so nothing in place at the moment, but it is something that City Council for sure is working on, and we're working with them together.
This same questioner also wanted to know can you provide any updates on, or what should residents do about people taking shortcuts through private yards and then basketball equipment being erected on city streets? And any update on housing code inspections and enforcement?
Okay. Yeah, so those are tricky. It comes back to respect and being part of a community, and what does that mean, right? We all we were raised with respecting each other, respecting your neighbor's property, and today I think there's a different, I don't know if it's kids, if it's lack of respect, people, to me, I think the best way is to build a relationship with your neighbors, with the kids around you. When you were a kid and wanted to play basketball, did you have a hoop? So we are putting up, we have the basketball hoops at Memorial Park. We're building 2 this year at Bluestone School on 260th. We want, it's funny to say, oh, kids playing basketball are a problem. It is a problem if it's in the street and it's impeding, or if it's disruptive. And so let us know, and we will try to help figure that out. Is there a driveway you can put it in?
The city had removed the ability for the young people to play basketball.
We had, so there were several courts, this goes back quite a while, where the city did have to take them down because they were being abused, or they were kind of causing more problems. That was a long time ago. The Memorial Park courts have been, we haven't had any problem there. Now those are fenced in and they're not open all the time. And it's we do some programming there. So, Pal Basketball does some stuff. Max Stevens, our rec director, does some programs there, and it's right behind the police station. We haven't had problems. The ones at Bluestone were initiated through a resident that, kind of spoke about his growing up with the neighbor's basketball hoop, everybody playing there, and how much he got out of that. He wasn't a good basketball player, but what he learned from the interaction, and the mother who lived there that kind of took them all. So he wanted to give back, and I want that for the kids today. And so the ones at Bluestone was sort of a partnership with the Board of Health. At the time, Councilwoman Hill was real active with that. The rec department, PAL, and so the church, Amani Church, which is right next door in the school. So the hope is that it really becomes a central hub of activity and support and positive recreation. So we need to make sure kids have a positive outlet. I think
I know that's really been tricky this year because so many places are closed.
Right.
They haven't been able to go to school. They can't even hang out at the library. So
right. So I mean, it's tricky today because you want to. I mean, it's easy for me to say get to know your neighbors and then build a relationship. I know not everybody is open to that, and not everybody. It's you might get some curse words back at you. We have a couple of things. We always, again, building that neighborhood group so the neighborhood gets to know each other. When people are out and there's activity, it's better for safety, it's better for kids, it's better to for everybody. But you all always can call if it's a nuisance, right? And if it's unsafe, you definitely can call the police. You definitely can call, whether it's your council person or my office, the mayor's office. we have kind of some neighbor mediation we've done in the past. We can certainly give them, the rules of, hey, you're not allowed to have a basketball hoop in the driveway, or whatever the instance is. Let us, give us a call and we can help with that. Our housing code, I'm sorry.
The housing inspections,
Yeah.
I don't want you to.
So our housing inspection, we have housing inspectors that have still been going out. We do primarily, it's been primarily responsive, so if somebody calls us, we will go out. We have not had the ability, because of staffing and just the amount of work that they already have to do, much proactive. So it really is more when people sell their house, sell their house, or we do rental inspections. So if it's a rental home, they're inspected every year. Unfortunately, the courts have not helped us. So because of personal property rights, we now have to ask people if they want an interior inspection and an exterior inspection. They cannot allow it. They can say, I don't want you inside my house, even for an inspection. So while we always, have operated by interior and exterior inspections, both for point of sale and for rental, we now have to ask the owner of the property, we have to give them the option of saying, I don't want. So the interior inspection. So we still are doing the exterior inspections. We are citing, and then we do have a process that has been developed through the prosecutor's office that after the allotted time, so let's, say, for example, your house, it has chipping paint and it needs to be painted. You can't do that in necessarily 30 days. So you may get 90 days to do that. After 90 days, if you don't do it, the housing inspector does not have the ability to extend it. They send right to the prosecutor's office. Now, the prosecutor's office will work with somebody because ultimately we want the home to get inspected, but we want to make sure it gets through that process. Okay. Again, we have people who, push the limits and they know, all right, I'm going to get sent to the prosecutor's office, but then the prosecutor's office is going to give me another 90 days. And so we do have, I don't want to suggest that solves the problem immediately. It doesn't, because we do have people who just, don't want to comply or perhaps don't have the money to comply, but we are committed to making sure the housing stock stays in good condition. And we are out regularly doing the inspections. If there's a house on your street that is, you think, should be cited for something, we will do that. Call us, call the housing department and give us the address. You don't have to give your name if you don't want. You can send an email, you can call, and we will make sure an inspection goes out. We are looking longer term at, do we want to look at more of that proactive? The problem is then we're citing people who, sometimes it's older people who have been there for a long time, don't have the money to do it, but we've got to find a way. We've got to find a way to work with them, and we do have some programs available to get the homes fixed up. So one of the other things we're looking at doing is developing a community development corporation. So some of you may be familiar with some of them in Cleveland. Many of the Cleveland neighborhoods have them. It's a separate nonprofit organization that often works with cities, and a big area of focus for many of the community development corporations is helping with building the housing stock. So whether it's programs to help repair homes, whether it's funds to help support, renovations or landscape improvements, or even just volunteers who can help for people who can't do it themselves. So we are in the middle of a process with a group called Strategy Design Partners that's leading us through a process, and we hope that will help in terms of whether it's housing stock, kind of community engagement and activity, even economic development to a degree. So we're excited about that opportunity.
Good. When we were talking about the young people and just trying to find activities, so what are the summer plans? Will the pools be open?
So
are
right
you-
now, yeah, thanks. That's a good question. I meant to touch on that when I talked about COVID at the beginning. We are planning right now to open summer programs. So they'll look a little different. It won't be, it won't be all hold, everybody in. But we are planning to open the pools. We're not sure yet about the Memorial Day parade. You may know the Joint Veterans Council, which is a group of the veterans groups. We're discussing with them, and I think we keep kind of pushing it back a month. We're at the beginning of April, we're due to talk with them, and I think we've got to make the decision of whether we can do it or not safely. I think at a very minimum, we would do the ceremonies at the cemeteries and the monument. I don't know whether a parade whether we'll be ready quite yet for a parade, but we'll work with the Joint Veterans. But no, we are looking, the Recreation Department is planning. I don't know, we don't have plans at the moment for big community events. I think we're still sort of on hold for that. I'd love to do concerts, I'd love to do all that stuff, but I think we're just waiting to make sure we can do that safely. But we are, getting back to the pool will be open, of course, the playgrounds and the tennis courts and the basketball courts, and back to doing some recreation program. I know our senior center is anxious to get open, but again, safely. So they're, will likely open slowly, probably not quite yet. Seniors, of course, are, more at risk than others, but probably get back to doing some, programming, and then, maybe getting back to a smaller lunch program. They have room, they can space out. Bob Payne, who's the senior manager, has been working. He's got more plans than anyone I know that have, changed throughout this whole pandemic, but they've done a great job staying in touch with the seniors. They've, kind of transitioned through the pandemic to providing home delivered meals, drive-through pickup meals, phone calls to the seniors, and, but they, everybody misses seeing one another. And I think we all know when we're home and we can't do anything, that you really lose that connection with people. So I know the seniors are anxious to get back to that as well. Casey looks like she froze. So I don't know if there's other questions. Let me see.
I think we lost her there.
Yeah.
So there was one that was plugged in, Mayor. The inspection issues seem to be handcuffed to the city's ability to maintain housing stock. What can a citizen do at the state level to remove those cuffs?
To remove say the last part again.
Sure, and I'll reread it. I added some words to your question there, Mr. Lee, but I'll read it again. The inspection issues seem to handcuff the city's ability to maintain housing stock. What can a citizen do at the state level to remove those cuffs?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't even think it's legislation. I think it's a court decision. So cities have been sued over it's kind of your right to your, property rights. And so there's been court cases, and I don't know whether that's advocating at the state level for changes, or that's just the court system, it's been the court system's decision. So that's a good question. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I think it's always, your state legislature, but it's the courts are determining I don't know if the state can even change that, because it's a judicial decision around protecting property rights. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Okay, I know Mr. Lee's also sent in he sent in a question earlier too, so I can give you his contact information.
Okay.
Way you can follow up with him after tonight's program.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, it's funny, and I don't know if anyone on the call is the Playmore roller skating rink is another example of this. So a lot of people think a city can do anything they want, and so the Playmore roller skating rink has become a nuisance. It's required a tremendous amount of police attention. It's certainly, we talked with lots of residents. I've talked with the businesses around there, including Burlington, including Dave's, including the Walgreens, including Help Foundation, Paragon. businesses that are being impacted by, a business owner that isn't being responsible about what he needs to do. So, lots of questions on why don't you just shut it down? I would love to shut it down. I don't have that authority. So it's a similar thing as well. What can you do? And so what we can do and what we have done, but again, it's very frustrating because we're at the mercy of the court system. We've filed against the Playmore, both the business and the property owner, to declare them a nuisance. We have to do that through the common pleas court. So we filed that back in November. We've been waiting for a hearing. We finally had a case management conference date set for March 31st. As you may or may not know, the last 3 weekends, there's been riots. I mean, I'll call them riots of kids in the downtown area, not there to roller skate, but they're there to fight. Welcome back, Casey.
I'm sorry.
So
technology.
So we said we can't just keep waiting and not doing anything. So we had to file another case with the court asking for a temporary restraining order. So while this case is working its way through, we need you to let us shut him down. We're waiting for the judge to decide on that. What we could do locally, we have, I mentioned earlier, this nuisance ordinance. So we've declared them a nuisance locally. But because of property rights, that doesn't mean we can just go shut him down. So he gets billed, he gets charged every time the police have to respond, a verified nuisance activity. He's got $10,500, I think, worth of nuisance fines that he gets billed. If he doesn't pay it, it goes on his property tax. Guess what? He's behind on his property tax. We've, asked the county to initiate tax foreclosure. The next tax foreclosure date hearing is April of 2022, not even this April, next April. We have the property owner in prosecution locally for fire code violations, building code violations, zoning violations. None of them are extreme enough that we can shut him down. We have to go through this prosecution process. So unfortunately, residents don't understand. They want us to just act, shut them down, and I can't because of property, rights, unless, so we have to go through this process. And we've been successful with this process with bars. We've had over the years a couple of bars that have become nuisance places, but you have to go through this court process. You have to get a court order to be able to do that. So that's in process. The time frame is extremely frustrating because every weekend we're like, all right, what's going to happen? And we tried to work with the owner. We tried to set up a memorandum of understanding where you need more. You need to have security there. You need to, if it's going to be a kids event, you need to have the parent come in, sign the kid in, the parent pick the kid up. That worked for a little bit, and then he abandoned that, and it obviously isn't working. So I say all that was long-winded to say, some of these things that are happening at the state level or being decided in the courts really make it difficult to manage these things in a quick manner. Now, I'm all for due process, and I, of course, appreciate people have rights. I am looking out for the safety of the community, the rights of the neighboring businesses, the safety of the kids, and the safety, people won't go to Dave's at night because they don't want to go through, the crowds of kids who may be there. And so it's impacting, he has a right to have his business and his property, but not when it's impacting negatively everything around them. And so we are working hard on that. It's extremely frustrating, that we can't just say, you're shut down. And so we're also always, we don't just take that and say, okay, we've done everything we can do. We always are trying to figure out, okay, calling other communities. Have you ever had a situation like this, or calling how can we change our ordinances or our laws to give us more authority, ability? So we're open to suggestions. Our best hope right now is that the judge will issue this temporary restraining order, at least until the case gets heard and something else happens. But it's a slow process, extremely frustrating.
I'm checking to make sure I don't see any other questions in the chat box or the Q&A box. Did
Mayor?
anyone?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you give us an update of what's going on with the old Y property there?
Sure. So the Y, if you've driven down, is in the process of being demolished. And I know that is very sad for those of us who have been around for a long time. So a little history, the Y, and this was another very sad day when the Y called us and said, we're closing. The Y was there for a long time. They had not put any money into the building in decades. So the building was in poor condition. They were, very low on membership. So the Y made the decision to close. We ended up working out, we tried, of course, to work with them to, what can we do to help? How can you stay? They just really, the building needed to be improved quite a bit. They didn't have the money to do that, and they didn't have the membership to support it. So the Y made the decision to leave. We've been trying to provide programming, and COVID, of course, made it tough, but working with the schools, working with our rec department, working with other community groups to try to take on some of the programming. But long story short, we were able to acquire the Y building basically if we agreed to take the building down. So they sold it to us for $1 if we took on the expense of taking the building down. We've had, several people say, well, why can't you use it as a rec center? Why can't you use it as something? It really was not in good shape. And so we would have, in order to operate it as a rec center, we would have had to put a lot of money into it. And we have plenty of buildings that are old and need a lot of work and money to put into it. So we didn't want to take on another building that needed a lot of work. It's a great opportunity for us to look at maybe additional recreation space, some development next to the golf course. One of the things we're working on long-term is looking at our police station and 2 fire stations are were probably built in the 1950s, late 40s, late 50s. The police station, fire station 1 on 222, fire station 3 on Lakeshore and 260th, all need to be, upgraded. So that might offer us an opportunity to replace one of those, perhaps, looking at the idea of a safety center that maybe it would combine a police and fire station together. Or if we, so we don't have plans for what will go there. We did have funding available through the county demolition funds to pay for the demolition of the building. So right now it's in the process of being demolished and will be green space until a plan comes forward to what it is.
Okay. Well, it is 7:26. We want to make sure that we are mindful of the mayor's time this evening. We have a little bit of time if there's just one more quick question.
Any other questions? Yeah. Anyone read any good books? I will say during the pandemic, I used my iPad and I used that e-media and
well, thank you, Mayor.
read a number of books.
I have to say that our digital downloads were up by like some ridiculous amount. I mean, so we do appreciate the residents who couldn't get, because you couldn't come all the way in. You said, I'll just download the book. So that right. has been a huge help to us, and we appreciate that.
Right. Are you, what's the thought with the library for community programs? Are you going to hold off a little bit on any in-person programs? It looks like Casey may have froze again.
We lost her again.
Okay, here I am. Here I am. Ashley, oh. Hello.
Yeah,
we can hear you. Can you hear? We can hear you.
Okay, because it just keeps going out. But you were saying, what was the thought with the
I just asked if the library has any plans for summer or into the fall community programs.
Our program, we are in planning process now. We are doing virtual programs through May. We hope to offer some programming face-to-face outdoors. In the summer, we're going to do some painting, some yoga, some Tai Chi in the garden. You guys are going to see a lot of us in that garden in summer.
Good.
So go to the what's the city's website, Mayor?
Cityofeuclid.com. So just cityofeuclid.com.
cityofeuclid.com. And of course, euclidpubliclibrary.org if you want to check out our programs. And thank you so much for being here for our first virtual fireside chat, Mayor. We hope to see you face to face soon. We thank all the residents for chiming in. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be saving this recording and putting it on YouTube and linking it to the city's website so that folks can watch it again. But everyone have a good evening and stay safe. And please, if you need information about the shot, about the vaccine, we encourage everyone. Go ahead.
You know what? The other resource, if anyone, in case you may want to try this, United Way First Call for Help has a 211 is a great resource. They're available to help people. If you don't have access to a computer, they can help you get registered for the shot. They also have, if somebody has transportation issues, they can help provide transportation to a vaccination site. Yes. So if United Way First Call for Help. Yeah.
And the library also has bus tickets for anyone who needs bus tickets to get to their vaccination location. So yes, I agree. Right. So plenty of resources out there to help everybody get that shot. So everybody have a good evening and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks,
Mayor. Everyone. Yep, no problem. Thanks.